Hey guys, welcome back to Be Rich. Before we get into the video, I wanted to bring to your notice that my uncles Vinod Srinivasan, Anand Srinivasan and I have rolled out our Substack, which is basically a blog / newsletter where we're going to post our original research onto it. And we've analyzed macroeconomic trends. And a lot of you know my uncle Anand Srinivasan and I regularly write for The Hindu, and these articles are also going to be made available for you in the Substack. The link is moatinvesting.substack.com. You'll find it in the description and in the video right now. We hope you go check it out. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. And please give us comments and feedback on what you read. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back to Be Rich. Today we're going to be talking about Google, Alphabet, the parent company, and seeing what was this antitrust case and what have they basically lost. What do investors have to think about now when analyzing Alphabet as a company to either purchase or watch from the sidelines? So I thought
No, but you think, as a consumer of the internet, as an end user, I think it's pretty good.
the antitrust ruling.
Yeah.
So let's first break down what the antitrust ruling was about. Let's explain what antitrust is. Those at home who may be confused about what's going on.
I think it's only there in the US, this antitrust law.
No, Europe is also.
This happens, eh?
Yeah, Europe is very strict on monopolies.
It's all thanks to Rockefeller. Standard Oil.
Yeah, Standard Oil. Like he hinted, the history of antitrust, which is basically when a monopoly gets too big, too controlling, and needs to be broken down to bring in competition because consumers are facing too high of prices. They're unable to get a fair value for their product which they're buying, which causes governments to step in and utilize different tools in their toolkit to break down these companies. This can be either through regulations, where you mandate certain price limits or certain ways of pricing, or the second method could be to break down the companies into different aspects, or maybe you ask the company to divest from certain businesses it has or pay a certain fee to encourage more competition. There have been many innovative ways in which governments have come to cut these companies to size. That's basically what they're trying to do. So the first example of this was with Teddy Roosevelt and Standard Oil, where Rockefeller was the first one who truly had a huge monopoly in the US and which had to be cut to size because he engaged in predatory pricing at first by cutting prices so low that no other competitor could survive. And there was a famous story where Rockefeller would go to another person, another oil refining company, and he'd open his books and then he'd leave it with the person, that owner, and he'd say, "Look, I'll give you a day. Go through my books. See how much money I have. If you want to get into a competition with me, this is what you're facing. Otherwise, you sell to me and I'll give you a good valuation for your company and you can be on your merry way." The rumor goes, or rather the story goes, that within about 30-40 minutes, the person came to a decision to sell after looking at just the few first pages of the books which Rockefeller had showed him. So that was what Standard Oil was. It was an oil company, and it was broken down into multiple different oil companies. And today, if you look at the big oil companies in the US, all of them were children of the main parent, which is the Rockefeller company. So this was the first time antitrust was truly brought into the foray in
But why did the US government, Franklin, why did he do the antitrust?
Because, as I told you, Theodore Roosevelt was mistrustful of Rockefeller, and he felt that Rockefeller was exploiting the public, one, but also he thought that Rockefeller needed to be cut down to size.
Correct. There's a famous quote: "Too much power in too few hands is never good."
Yeah.
So too much power in Rockefeller, where he controlled and monopolized, and he'll start dictating, and even the American government will become subservient to Rockefeller because of the need of oil, and petroleum products would make everyone into slaves of Rockefeller. So this is the right thing which they did, and it makes absolute sense to crush these kinds of situations. And even in Europe now, you're saying it's there, even in India, the government does actively try and prevent this kind of monopolization. And when it does happen, it's not a good sight, not a good scene for consumers and the nation as a whole.
So the story, it goes further. So Rockefeller basically announced his intention to support William H. Taft, who was the person running opposite to Theodore Roosevelt. And that basically, grated on Theodore Roosevelt's nerves, because why would you want to do that? So Rockefeller basically rubbed them on the wrong side, and it led to antitrust being a huge issue. And Roosevelt successfully, I should say, broke down Rockefeller's companies into smaller pieces. And today, these are the companies that survived. So this was oil. This was over 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago. What is it today? So let's look at it today. Google has long been accused of monopolizing the search engine market. So some of you might be saying, isn't that a tool? I mean, Google is not making money off of this. Well,
because it's free.
Because it's free. We're not paying anything. So what is Google exploiting us? Two things. One, advertising. The fact that they have a monopoly on advertising revenue in the internet. Because like it or not, YouTube and Google end up eating up much of the advertising revenue in the market. Yes, they share revenue with you, but any of you who are YouTube content creators or any of you who own Google websites, which gain a lot of traffic and maybe you're making AdSense off of that, most of you understand the fact that Google does eat up quite a bit of what you make without actually providing any help with the content which you're putting out. So this may seem as predatory, and a lot of people have spoken out about this. And yes, some people think that it's a moderate amount of money which they're taking, but others don't, especially regulators. And this is in the context of the fact that no one uses Bing these days. I mean, now that ChatGPT is there and it's tied up with Microsoft, yes, Bing is being used as the default search engine. But otherwise, I want any of you to recall and think of the last time you actually had to use Internet Explorer or Bing.
People don't even say the word search engine.
Yeah. Like anyone
says Google.
Yeah.
That's like Xerox.
Yeah. So that's the kind of power you're dealing with, memory recall, as brand recall, as well as the control they have over search engines. I think 95% of searches I've made in the internet are on the Google platform or Google architecture or Google related. So this being said, the case was basically that, look, they have a monopoly on search engines. Okay. This is somewhat acceptable as a premise. How has the US ruled? How has the US court ruled? So there's a judge whose name is Amit Mehta of the US District Court, and he ruled on Monday. This is a case which has been going on for the past decade. It's a long running case. And he basically ruled on Monday a landmark ruling saying that this is illegal. He says that because Google also offers revenue sharing agreements with device makers like Apple, for example, it pays a huge sum of money to Apple to use Google as the default search. So then it begs the question, is this anti-competition? And Judge Amit Mehta believes so, and he ruled as such. He said that, look, from a general consumer's point of view, you have very little choice to escape this Google architecture if you want to. He says that today, if you want to buy a phone, be it Apple or Android, that's an illusion of choice. Because at the end of the day, you buy an Apple phone, you're falling into the Google bracket. You buy an Android phone, well and good. Android is provided by Google. So Android phones are going to have Google as its default, the Play Store. So then the question then becomes, how are we going to come down on this? This is not something which they've decided yet. So to all of you who are treating this as doom and gloom and saying that, look, Google is done for. No, it's not, because we don't really know how the regulation is going to happen.
No, he can appeal this.
Yeah, he can appeal this and
go all the way up to Supreme Court.
Yeah, but the most important thing here is that even if they're not going to take this up and overrule this ruling, the main point here is the fact that we don't know how they're going to go forward with this. It's just the start of the race. It's just start of the match.
And how long it's going to take?
Yeah, it's going to take decades probably till 2035, 2036, another 10 years. Another 10 years down the line, maybe we'll have a little more clarity. It's not like European courts where they immediately take a decision and they let you know.
And by the time, AI might do things which may make this whole thing irrelevant.
Exactly. So the problem is the fact that even if today there is a ruling that Google is guilty of anti-competitive practices, how are they going to clamp down on this? We're not really sure. There are a few options. Let's examine some of these options. So one option is the fact that Google will be forced to divest from Android, because Android is a big source of where this competitive edge is coming from. But that still doesn't solve the problem, because Google is paying mobile manufacturers to take on Google as a search engine. And if you're going to force Google to stop paying these people, at least the way I see it, if I am a mobile manufacturer, I'm going to give the people what they want. And people want Google. And if people want Google and I'm forcing Google not to pay these guys, that's even worse because Google doesn't have to pay to be the search engine, and at the same time it will be the search engine.
Correct.
So Google, it's like a double benefit for Google. So if they're not careful in how they do their ruling, we might end up seeing Google actually benefit from it.
No, I think the best way they'll do this about this, they'll break up Google into pieces.
Yeah.
There'll be like Google US, there'll be a Google Korea, there'll be a Google India, and each of these will be fighting each other, which will be all separate from each other, and they can't co-own each other, and it has to be something like that.
I mean, but with oil, it makes sense. You can break it up, you can split up the refineries. But my question is, we've never dealt with a company like Google before.
No, there's no physical asset like that.
So it's going to be a very difficult process for them to try to break up Google. And we're not saying that
the worst thing that can happen is the government decides to take it over.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario. But my point here being that there's no clear path in which how they can break up Google.
And plus, Google's an international company.
Yeah.
So they can go to all kinds of lengths to avoid this.
So the only way in which I can see something happening here is if they're made to pay a fee to its competition to bring their competition back. But I think it's too far gone. No. I mean, no one's going to use another search engine even if you pay them to, because everyone's just...
There's nobody else, man.
Yeah.
Who, Google's going to play Bing, Microsoft?
No, probably
Microsoft will take it and put it in his pocket and say thanks and won't do anything with Bing.
Bing, yeah.
Because it's a wasted effort for them. They have better things to fry than try to create a search engine to go fighting Google.
Like OpenAI.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even if you want to regulate it, the phenomenon might be that as time goes on, the search engine fiasco is going to be less and less relevant, because once AI comes in, it's already come in, but once it comes in a bigger way, there's no telling how the search engine way of things is going to change.
Correct.
Because today a lot of people are already using ChatGPT to sort of do their search engine work for them. And that uses Microsoft's Bing. So I see a path where Google's natural monopoly may slowly erode on its own. So that's quite possible. And by the time Judge Amit Mehta's ruling, as well as other people's rulings come in and they decide on how to target Google, the entire environment...
Yeah, it's quite possible Google itself will transform and go into some AI different thing.
Yeah.
So they'll put this all into a smaller company and say, here, you guys do what you want to do.
Yeah, do what you want with
it.
You
want a chutney, you make chutney out of it.
So that's the way at least I see it. And as for investors at home, it's very difficult for us to even understand what's going to happen. So at this point, but whatever happens is going to take a long time. It has to be ratified. It has to go through a series of hearings. Google has to sort of agree to it as well. Yes, it will be forced upon Google, but they do have some say in lobbying and trying to get...
No, it's a long way to go.
Yeah, best
outcome. It's not like they've been shot or something.
Yeah.
It's not like it's done and dusted.
It could be, for all we know, it could be a slap on the wrist by the time the ruling comes. Or it could be detrimental, where Google could be broken up into different companies.
And right now, American government and Americans have higher priority than chasing Google right now.
Yeah. So for those of you at home who are watching this live and, trying to keep in touch with this, I'd say you have to wait and watch to see as most of our videos end.
Yeah, don't have any knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, as most of our videos, prompt this message, which is basically that it's going to take time and it's going to take a long time for things to come out. And there's no point in trying to buy the fall, or if predicting that there's going to be a fall sometime soon. It's going to be very difficult to figure this out.
True.
And yes, this is the start of something, but the end is not very near. So we have a long time to go before we figure out what's going to really happen.
True.
But this is an interesting topic, which I hope all of you keep reading upon.
No, and you should read about antitrust and why it's important. And even in India and Indian elections, last elections have proved, though there is no real law like this in India, the same shape and form, but you realize the Indian public could not be...
hands.
They took it in their own hands and said, no, you can't hold us to ransom. And you saw the shake-up in our political landscape. So, end of the day, people decide when they've had enough. And right now, people are not saying they've had enough of Google. When it will turn against Google is if majority of human beings decide to say, hey, this is too much. It can happen.
And you can't predict it.
When it will happen, what will cause it, we cannot say. Anyway.
So, that being said, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit the bell icon if you want to be notified of when we drop our latest video. Finally, if you have any opinions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. We'll make it a point to read your comments. Thank you again for watching, Dheeraj.
Thank you.
I told you about visiting Singapore. The date has been finalized. It's 25th August. It's a Sunday. Those desirous of meeting me in Singapore can drop a message to the WhatsApp number given below or contact my team by an email. My team would reach out to you and we will assure you of our best services. For English and Hindi, there will be a separate meeting. See you in Singapore. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.